Well, hello and welcome to the Aircraft Global Market Update. Today is Friday, August 25th, 2023. It's a new YouTube channel dedicated to the aviation aircraft market throughout the world. We're going to provide our analysis and opinions on where the market is at, what inventory is looking like, where we've come from, and where we think we are heading to in the future. But it's all opinion. Please like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and share this video so that we can continue making more of them for you. So let's go ahead and get right in. We're going to start off with news and overall sentiment. What's going on right now? And look, we're not going to create a channel here that is going to go over all of the financial wins or doom and gloom that are published on countless YouTube channels out there. They're all over the place. There's some really good ones out there. If you want to know what's going on in the economy or specific niche markets, please find another channel. I'm just trying to set an overall picture right here because in the macro environment, all of these things will come into play on what an aircraft value should and could look like. So we'll start with the top left here. Jerome Powell just met in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. Very hawkish still on interest rates, and I think that he's probably going to hike interest rates at least one or two more times this year. So that's going to further invert the treasury curve and the yields, and all of this is not good. It creates barriers to borrowing. It de-incentivizes investors and business owners from growing. Do I think we need the rising interest rates? Absolutely. I do believe inflation is too hot. I think I'm one of the few people that thinks Jerome Powell is doing a good job. But I do believe that we have to pay for the bad decisions made during COVID and the stimulus during the pandemic. And that has to come vis-a-vis interest rates. We need to slow the government down, slow the American consumer down, because otherwise all of our savings and everything we are working towards in the future, that American dream, will evaporate under the time value of money and rampant inflation. So we must have interest rates up for a while in order to help fix that. I think we also need to fix the American worker and the public school system as well, but we'll save that for another video. That is, of course, if we're to really address inflation. You take a look at the velocity of money, the M2 curve. Is money being pumped into the economy? Are people spending money? Spending is slowing down. It's on the news everywhere. Very few companies are beating earnings. A handful in the stock indexes are winning and doing well, especially some of these AI and techie firms. But for the most part, the American consumer is slowing their spending down. And why? Because they've exhausted their savings. The government was pumping out cash during the pandemic. People were spending like crazy. And now since all of that is dried up, the spending, of course, is slowing down, but the American was still used to spending. And so they ran up all of their credit card debt. There's lots of other articles out there about credit card debt right now. But basically, the American consumer is running out of cash in the bank, and their credit card debt is really high. So this is going to create some barriers to spending. I know if you're here for the jet markets, you're thinking, well, how does the average consumer have anything to do with the jet market? Well, the average consumer is what makes purchases at some of these larger corporations to CEOs and flight departments that can afford to acquire a jet. So spending goes down, revenue goes down. You know the story. Once again, we talked about the treasury yield keeps rising and why that's not good. That's simply because the cost to borrow is going to increase. And I want to paint a picture for that for you in a moment about homes. There's so many homes being built right now, still being built. And some of these builders utilize leverage to build these developments, these tract home developments. And as interest costs go up, it gets to a point where they can't possibly sell the homes for a price that makes sense with their floating line of credit with these interest rates. Next, and this is really big and this is really important, I want you to consider bonus depreciation, what that looks like over the next couple of years. Last year in 2022, you could utilize an aircraft for business purposes and depreciate 100% of that in 2022. This year in 2023, you can only depreciate 80. Next year in 2024, it's going to be 60, and so on until those Trump era tax cuts of bonus depreciation dwindle. And look, bonus depreciation is a huge incentive for acquiring aircraft, both new and used, because bonus didn't really care as long as you put it into service. As that starts to fade away, it's really going to de-incentivize acquiring some of these large purchases if they can't be a write-off. It's also going to put tremendous pressure, not just on the demand, but also on the price itself, because a lot of the prices we are seeing right now, at least I feel, is price gouging. You look at a brand new price of a 172 or a 182 Cessna, it's mind blowing. It's more than a house, and several $100,000. And to me, the only reason they were able to command that is knowing that the American pilot consumer purchaser was probably going to be able to depreciate that as an expense and maybe only pay around 60% of the overall acquisition cost when it's all said and done. So that's going away. Global economy heading for turbulence. We are still having supply chain issues. No one really knows why. Everybody's still blaming COVID. It doesn't make sense to me. However, we are still having supply chain issues. It's affecting manufacturers, but it's also affecting demand as well. Some people don't want to wait, or they want to choose another product or one that's already off of the shelf. And on top of that, these other world economies, these global other countries, are consumers of aircraft as well, especially some of the first worlds and the ones that are growing. The emerging markets, so to speak. A lot of that could be drying up for a little bit. We talked about the home buyers having an issue, maybe because prices are getting too high, also because interest rates are high. Builders are going to have trouble selling at the prices they're going to need to sell to. And so we've got some issues in the system. If we have issues with homes, we have issues with interest rates, we have issues with bonus depreciation. All of this is downward pressure on the aviation market. Brokers aren't going to tell you this. Manufacturers aren't going to tell you this. That's why I created this channel. I want to hear from you. I want you to post in the comments. Maybe we'll put some email out there at some point so we can get data from you. Maybe we'll get purchase agreements so we can actually have hard data and see what are people paying right now for used aircraft, for new aircraft, not what the companies that produce these valuations are, the blue books of aviation, so to speak, not what these surveys tell us, not what brokers and salesmen want us to believe, but what is actually happening in the market. I think we need to get together and communicate as pilots, as owners, as purchasers, because the truth is not out there. And we're going to show you that that is proof in the stagnancy of this market right now. Okay, let's continue on with age demographics. Just like to point out here that, looking at 2010 until 2021, we see quite a large jump in the age 65 plus margin, a little bit of a jump in the early ages, but for the most part, our aging population is growing to be a larger percentage of the pie of our entire population. And the up and coming, the new births are going down. That's not good for future consumers. It's not good for business. It's not good for an economy, for growth. So, all of those are issues. And your most important bracket, your 35 to 49, that has gone down a small fraction of a percent as well. Taking a look at civil airman certificates and statistics here, and this is from 2022. I mean, look, who's flying? We're mostly focused on jets and kind of turbine aircraft on this channel. We're gonna cover some of the small things as well. And if you want to comment on things that you would like to see us discuss as well, please do let us know. But for the most part, we're going to stick with the jet and turbine market. And who is flying in that market? Who is operating those aircraft? Commercial and airline pilots. And there's only about 300,000 of us. That's it. And if you take away the really older ages and the really younger ages, and maybe we focus somewhere between 30 and 64, and we say, hey, these are the folks that are most likely to be operating right now. You can take 30, 40, 50,000 off of each of those numbers. And now we're down to about 200,000 pilots. And bear in mind, a lot of these folks are necessarily going to be gobbled up by the airlines. The airlines are going to afford to continue to pay more and more and more to get the pilots because it is creating huge logistical issues in the United States and abroad in order for people to travel. And so more and more pilots are going to be going to the airlines here because I think the airlines are going to be more and more competitive. And that creates less pilots to operate in the charter and the private, business or personal jet ownership market. So again, downward pressure. And if we look at the types of pilot certificates on the right, the average age, we do also see that between 2001 and last year, the average age of the airline transport pilot, the ATP, went up 4.8 years. That's a lot. That's over 10%, maybe even 12% if you consider an average age of 80. Commercial certificate stayed about the same. And look at student pilots. Average age jumped almost 2 years. That's not good. It means people are not learning to fly at younger ages. They are not choosing aviation as a career. Again, downward pressure for aircraft of any kind, but especially large turbojet and turbine type aircraft. Okay, global pilot shortage. We all know it's there. There are tens of thousands of pilots. We are short worldwide right now. It's forecasted to continue for quite some time. And so what can you do? Not much. It takes a long time to become a pilot, especially of a sophisticated, complex aircraft like a jet or a turbine. And so these are vacuums that are going to exist for quite a while. So now we'll go ahead and head back to this total aircraft inventory, because brokers, salesmen want you to believe that we have a very healthy market right now and things are selling and everything's going well, and it's a complete lie. The market is completely stagnant. It is not moving at all. I've actually been tracking the market and writing down numbers since February. But, I started out with just totals, and then I started adding some aircraft. And now, as of today, Friday, August 25th, we're going to start tracking everything that you see here and putting it hopefully in weekly updates for you. And again, I really hope to get comments and hopefully information via email, real-time actual data from you guys, the viewers, that we can actually use to help educate one another, inform one another, so that we can be smart, intelligent buyers and acquirers of aircraft. So what do we have here? Just since I've been tracking total numbers in June, actually writing them down, like I said, I've been doing this since February, and the number's been in the 4,400s on Controller. Controller is pretty much the website I use because that's what everybody uses. So we're going to focus specifically on the inventory that is in Controller. That's what we're going to be reviewing and kind of reacting to and giving our opinion on. So in June, 4,463 aircraft for sale, 4,500 towards the end of June, 4,547 July 24th, and 4,643 here in the end of August. And I'll tell you what, I've seen a lot of aircraft drop off the market, and I thought, oh, wow, did these sell? Are things actually starting to move? I called on probably a dozen aircraft, and no. The salesman or the owner or the seller is the salesman is just going to keep it offline for a little while to put a fresh ad back up. I had so many people tell me this, and so all of the aircraft that you may or may not see disappearing, a lot of them are still for sale. Probably most of them are still for sale. They're just wanting to create the illusion of a new aircraft coming to the market by taking it off for a couple of weeks. So consider that. Several months, things aren't moving. Let's take a look. I don't have any data. We're going to start focusing data on single engine aircraft, the 172SP and 182T, because it's popular and simple, SR-22s, the Corvallis, because I love the aircraft, the Piper Meridian, and the TBM. All models, we'll just track all models, and helicopters will track the Raven 2, the R-66, the Bell 505, the 407, and Agustas and 429s. I can tell you that this market's not moving either. I've been watching, a lot of these here. I've been watching the TTX market, TBM market. one here, one there in a month, and you may consider that healthy. But a couple of years ago, there was no inventory of these aircraft. 4 years ago, there was no inventory of this kind of stuff. It just went so fast. So as I said, we're going to focus on jets. And so let's go ahead and get right into that. The Cirrus Vision Jet 35. We're talking about 2 months here of controller data here, 35, 39, 34, 35. The market is not really moving. And as I said, you might see a dip here, 35, especially when we go to look at some numbers here like the jet. You might see some dips here. I'm telling you, I called on many of these, and many of these are still for sale. Their ads on controller just expired. So at least consider maybe a couple of these haven't actually sold. The Citation Mustang, those are actually moving a little bit here and there. I've known some people that have actually acquired Mustangs. I think the prices are still way too high on these. I think the prices on everything are high. It's another primary reason for this channel is that the truth is just not out there. All the entities, like I said, salesmen, companies, brokers, want us to pay these ridiculous prices for aircraft right now. I'm proud to see so many of you holding the line as I am. And I would like to say continue to do that, because nothing is worth what it's priced at right now, especially given the downward pressure that's coming. That's my opinion. Phenom 100s, 28, 34, 32 down to 26. Haven't really called on those. I suspect that some of those are expiring ads, but maybe some sales could have happened there as well. Honda Jet, no sales at all. 18, 18, 18, 21. Not a popular aircraft. No one wants it. Citation M2, 19, 20, 19, 18. M2 not really moving. Called on a couple of those aircraft that disappeared. Guess what? They're still on the market. They just took the ad down, or the ad expired for a minute. CJ3 pluses, I have not called on those. I have seen a couple of those fall off the market. I suspect that the owners just took them down for now. I don't even know if some of these people are really interested in selling their aircraft, or they just thought, hey, maybe I can get some ridiculous price for it and go for it. And if not, I'll just hang on to it, because I called on some of these for myself or others, and people are just inflexible on price. I think a lot of these sellers saw the prices that were happening 18 months ago and are thinking that we are still in that time frame and window, and we are absolutely not. That ship has sailed. The demand proves it. The news proves it. The downward pressure proves it. And it's only going to get worse. So if I were these owners of these aircraft, I would start flexing on price, because if they don't, I think there's going to be a huge cliff that's coming in the near future. There's just not enough pilots. There's not enough hangars to put these aircraft into. There's not a lot of people that can afford to acquire these things. And yet manufacturers like Embraer and Cessna are still churning out new aircraft left and right. And so the used market is just going to continue to get flooded with companies, like NetJets. Again, all my opinion. The CJ4, oh my gosh, this is a hilarious story here. I don't know what's going on with this aircraft. 7 years ago, 6, 7 years ago, you could not give away one of these things for half of what they were purchased for. No one wanted a CJ4 because no one wanted a Proline 21. For whatever reason, now these things are selling for Phenom 300 prices. They're not really moving, as you can see, 13, 12, 16, 12. I suspect that 16 to 12 move is probably maybe a sale or two, and then maybe just ads, expiring. But I still maintain that no one wants a Proline 21. It's a specific market. Phenom 300s, at least you have owner pilots. CJ4s, you don't have a whole lot of owner pilots wanting to fly a Proline 21, so you're limited to businesses, corporate aviation, and charter. And price to performance, my humble opinion is that the Phenom 300 probably does a better job. So I don't know what the value proposition is. I don't know why the prices are staying high, but historically, this thing was a toxic asset, my opinion, very hard to get rid of, as was the Mustang. The Mustangs are selling right now. The numbers don't show it, but I have seen a one or two here and there move. I don't think they should. I think they are overpriced. but they are moving a little bit here and there. And maybe that's because that's all people want to spend money on right now. If they're going to pay over value for something, you know, as a percentage, it's still high, but as a dollar value, it's a lot lower than overpaying by, say, $1 million for a CJ3, overpaying $2 to $3 million for a CJ4 or a Phenom 300. Because, my opinion, that's the kind of prices we're seeing right now, is $1 to $2 million over valuations, over reasonable valuations for these aircraft. So, okay, we don't really need to look necessarily at the specific numbers. You notice they all kind of track together. Doesn't it just kind of seem like expiring ads since they all kind of move together? Helicopters, again, I apologize for the shooting up charts here. It's because we just started tracking these. So these charts are going to look weird for a minute. I don't know why that one broke, but we'll fix that in the next video. So, okay, let's go ahead and shoot through some inventory now, and let's see what we can find. And we're going to start out with the jet aircraft. And we're just going to sift through. And what I've done is I've tried to put together reasonable evaluation based on aircraft I've moved in the past, based on friends and acquaintances and brokers that I know and speak with. And I put together some decent numbers. They're not perfect. You know, don't chastise me in the comments. They'll get better over time as we start to get real-time information from you to cooperatively put it out there to everybody to stay informed. I'm not really going to take a look at brand new aircraft here, and an aircraft that is called for price doesn't really help us out at all. So we won't really focus too much on that. What we can do is maybe we will start with a specific model right now, and we'll try to clear out this filter and maybe just select, say, oh, let's start with the, what is our jet aircraft value? Let's start with, we start with Mustang. So let's just do that. Let's go ahead and begin with the Mustang, and then we'll move aircraft by aircraft from there. Might not get to helicopters and fixed wing aircraft that are like, excuse me, single engine pistons or turbines, but we'll try to maybe shoot a follow-up video if we don't have enough time. So, okay, Citation Mustangs, 2009, do we got any numbers here? Okay, 2010, Citation Mustang, $2.1 million. You know, is this a good value? Well, let's take a look at this little chart I'm working on putting together. And let's see, in 2010, I was not able to find an MSRP for that year, but it looks like 08, they were around 2.7, and 2012, they were around 3. Now, keep in mind that these were MSRPs, and a lot of times people would negotiate with manufacturers. I know I did back in the day. I didn't pay sticker price. And then, of course, other people loaded up with all kinds of options and maybe paid over sticker price, but I know I usually paid under sticker price. So somewhere probably less than these numbers is what I'm guessing the average person paid. So 2.7 to 3, let's just call it 2.9. And then, of course, now, how many hours does this aircraft have? This aircraft has 3,000 hours. Okay, red light, stop right now. No one wants an aircraft over 2,000 hours, period. I don't care what you say in the comments. I don't care how amazing you say it is, the most perfect aircraft. People quit looking at aircraft once they hit 2,000 hours. But let's go ahead and key in 3,000 hours here. Didn't even affect the valuation, because how some things work is they seem to depreciate to a specific value and just stop. And then people are like, I don't care how many hours are on it. That's cheap. I'll pay for it. And so again, all of these are my opinion, my guesses, my estimates, and kind of where I've been on certain machines in the past, where friends and people I know have been. But this is what it looks like. So 1.6 to 1.8, somewhere in there, let's call it 1.7, would be a reasonable value for that aircraft, right? That's mind-blowing. What is that as a percentage over? 2.1 divided by 1.7 is a 23% delta. Now, look, we did have COVID. We can't get around that. There's where should the aircraft be historically, based on historical precedents of things that are used that fall apart over time, that have limits, depreciate, and other things maybe that get better do not, but aircraft have always historically depreciated. So that said, if all things were equal, this aircraft should be somewhere around 1.6, but we did have COVID. We did send everybody home for a couple of years. We printed lots of money, We created inflation. Some of it's here to stay. I hope some of it goes away. So let's go ahead and key in 110%. I mean, let's give inflation 10% here, and let's just see how that affects the numbers. 1.7 to 1.9. Let's call it 1.8. Okay. So 1.8 would be a reasonable value for that aircraft. This is 300,000 over what a reasonable price is, my humble opinion. This aircraft here, 1 Romeo Golf, and I've looked at this. This is a gorgeous aircraft. This aircraft is actually, I think it's nearly $400,000 deferred. Maybe it's 300. I forget. On programs, and so I know they mentioned in the comments here that this aircraft doesn't have any minimums, and you don't have to pay for the programs. But if you ever get the TBO, you will. So to me, everybody else has paid up their programs. To me, that's got to factor into the value here. So really, I'm going to add, they're asking 2.3 here. I'm going to add just a couple $100,000 to that. I'm going to say they're asking 2.5 because last I checked on this aircraft, it was still deferred programs. Let's take a look at it. 2008 for 2.3, how many hours? 1845. Now they do have the Garmin NXI, I think it's around a $60,000 upgrade. They've got a beautiful paint interior. Let's give them 150 grand for that. So let's call it 200 grand. And maybe that offsets the deferment of the engine program. So now we'll pull that 200 grand back away, and we're back to $2.3 million here. Well, 2008, with 1,800 hours and a 10% inflation adjustment, this aircraft, all things being equal, should be 1.75 million. Even if we give them 15% for inflation, 1.8 million. This aircraft is heavily overvalued by $400,000. What does that work out to as a percentage? 2.3 divided by 1.8 is a 27% markup. That's an awful lot of inflation. Not even going to look at this one. It's got 3,000 hours and it's listed as the same price as this one. So that is even more of a delta. I don't see any value there whatsoever. Here's a 2008 with 2,500 hours for 2 million. Okay. They're at least getting in the right direction here, but this thing's got 2,500 hours. So what does that do? Doesn't look like it affects the numbers. It looks like we're depreciating these down to about 65% and then stopping from their original value, just because that's what historically people seem to be willing to pay for them. So 1.75 on this. This is 250 or 300 over ask, I guess, then. And what's the story on it? Do we have programs? Power Advantage. So it does have programs. So look, this one is off the mark. It's got the Garmin NXI, which is great. And what do we have for an interior? Paint looks reasonable. Interior looks, well, actually, interior might be updated. So I don't know. This might not be a horrible value. 2008. Nope, 2008 paint and interior. So it's slightly better. It's still 250 grand over ask, 20% or so, but it's better. No lists, no lists. Let's see, keep going here. 2007 for 2,095,000, 3,700 hours. I don't see how this ever sells. I hope you are not considering buying this. I hope there's zero plans. I hope you're not even looking at this aircraft, because anyone who buys that aircraft inflates the market for the rest of us here, and the market has got to come down. These things are not worth this price. That's why they're sitting there. Good on you for holding the line. 2008 for 1,795. Hey, look, a reasonably priced aircraft, maybe 2,600 hours. Okay. And rolled on Power Advantage Pro parts. Look at that. Finally, somebody might be reasonable here. Is there any damage? Any interesting thing going on here? Don't see any damage listed. This one might be worth checking out. This might actually be a reasonable aircraft. Now, it's probably has original paint and interior. Yes, it does, but that is in the value matrix here. So, hey, look at that. We've got maybe one winner here in the entire market. I don't know. What's the story on that thing? All right, call for price, call for price, call for price. All right, that's it for Mustangs. What's next on our list? Let's go through with M2s. All right, let's go to model And we'll switch over to M2s. Probably not going to focus much on M2 Gen 2s. The brand new ones do seem to be selling off a little bit at more realistic prices that are closer to what they were new, slightly under, whereas the used aircraft are in some cases appreciating like nearly what they were acquired for in the first place, yet they're heavily used, which is crazy. So let's take a look at this one. 800 hours on this 2017. Now it looks like M2s were also depreciating to about 65%. Historically, from what I've seen, and I know this market very well, historically about 300 grand a year would come off at about 150 bucks per flight hour. So let's go ahead and key in that 800 hours in there. Let's leave the 10% inflation adjustment. And this aircraft was a 2017. And so, ooh, ouch. All right, what was it new? This thing was $4.5 million new. This is, I don't understand people. I've got people calling me right now telling me this is a good deal. No, it's not. It's 6 years old. It is nearly halfway to the time of 2,000 hours where no one's going to want it anymore. And it is selling for what it listed for, nearly brand new. That might be what they paid for it brand new, because remember we talked about people don't pay sticker price for these things. So $4.5 million, heavily used. Yeah, it's got a nice paint job, but absolutely no way, shape, or form. This is a $3.2 million aircraft in a couple of years. You want to be really generous to them. Let's call it a $3.4 million aircraft. Oh, sorry. 3.4 million bucks. Looks like I don't know why we have some same numbers here, but we double check that these are wrong. It's probably just because they got fully depreciated to their price. Oh, for some reason I have an MSRP drop between 2015 and 2017. Don't know if that's an error or not. So again, all this is my opinion. Don't chastise me. Help me out with data. Show me what you're paying, what you've paid in the past, what you've sold for in the past, so that we can share it with everybody and get these values to come where they are by giving other people the conviction to hold the line until they do. So we'll just call it a $3.4 million aircraft. Yeah, a year ago, 2 years ago, sure. I'm totally with you. It's probably a $4 million aircraft or so, or $4.2 million aircraft, but that ship has sailed. Okay, let's continue on here. Sorry. Let's go on to the next aircraft. Okay, 2016 with 989 hours on it. All right, we'll just put in 1,000 hours on a 2016. I see 3.4 million bucks. Again, brand new. The 2016 was 4.5 million. It is 7 years old at this point. Very well used. Don't even want to look at it and see whether it has programs or not. Looks like it does. But this aircraft 3 years ago would have sold for probably, less than this, less than $3.4 million. It could have sold for 3.2 3 or 4 years ago. I know the 2014s 3 or 4 years ago were going for 2.7 to 2.8. That was kind of like the bottom of them. And maybe that was an artificial bottom. Maybe the real bottom should have been around 3.1. But I know, yeah, I mean, I'm not talking unreasonable price here, especially with an inflation adjustment of 15%. So let's keep going here. And let's see, call for price 2020, 4.95. How many hours? 417. Okay. All right, 2019. These were nearly $5.1 million new. So it's 3 years old. It's got 500 hours on it, quarter of the way to 2,000 hours. And they're basically, that's probably what they paid new for it, maybe, right? And we said that's a 2020. Oh, 5.3. Okay. Okay, they shaved a little bit off there. Shaved off 350,000 bucks. And what does this say? It should be at 4.9. Hey, look at that. Isn't that interesting? All right, Eagle Eye Aviation, good on you. That's a reasonable price. That's what I was telling you before. Some of these new aircraft are actually better priced than the older aircraft, at least within line with what they should be now. They weren't that way last year. They were also high, but the newer aircraft starting to come down. So some of the value proposition may be in newer aircraft. Let's continue on. There's a 2020 with 585, and we'll just go ahead and put in 600. And so that should be about 4.96 or so. If we bring it down to 110% inflation, which I like 10% inflation. So maybe that other one, maybe there was a little bargaining in that last one, maybe 100 grand or so. You guys could meet in the middle. On this one, 475, 485. Wow, that's pretty good. QS partners, this is reasonable. If this is on programs and good stuff, I think that's a decent price for that aircraft. All right, continuing on. Let's see, no price, no price. Some of these I called about and over time, and they were just very, very inflated. Folks aren't willing to move. In some cases, wanting over $5 million for these things. Let's just see. Like, let's take a look at a 2019 here from Jetcraft. Let's see. There's no price on it, but 663 hours. We didn't do a 2019. Let's do 675. M2, 10% inflation, 2019, 4.1. If we go to 115% inflation, 4.3, that would be a fair price for that aircraft. I doubt that's what they're selling it for. I think they're trying to move that for upwards near 5. All right, let's do a 2018, 630 hours, 630, 2018. We'll put it right there. What was this brand new? 4.7 million. We show about 3.5 right now. That's probably a little aggressive. This is where our calculator, like I said, it'll get better over time. Our calculator's probably not perfect here, especially because 29, look at the jump there from 3.5 to 4.3. It's an 800,000 jump. Well, the previous year was a 200,000 jump. So this could be a little low. I'll concede that. Let's say 3.7, somewhere around there. Maybe let's start there. 3.75 and 4.7. So $1 million. 2018. That's what we said, right? 2018, 4.7 brand new. These folks are asking a brand new price for an aircraft that's got 630 hours on it. No, just no, no, no. Please do not buy that aircraft. All right, let's see. 2016 Cessna Citation M2 3.9, and that's 1,400 hours. All right, so it's over halfway to that 2,000 mark where no one wants it anymore. And it's right around the hot section time, which, hey, if it's on programs, it's not that big of a deal, but it's still going to go down for a while. And parts have still been a struggle, and that's still something that you have to deal with. Do you want to deal with that? So 2016 M2, originally sold for maybe close to 5. This thing shows about 3.45 right now. And where's it at? 3.95. That is a pretty large delta. We're just going to leave this calculator open. 3.95 divided by 3.45. I think that's what it said. That's a 15% delta. And we're already at 115% inflation adjustment. So don't necessarily see the value proposition there on that particular 2016. A year ago, probably no problem the price they're asking. 2 years ago, year and a half, for sure. They would have gotten that a year and a half ago. I'm sorry, folks, that ship has sailed. Maybe it'll come back. I hope it doesn't. I know people that want to buy. We've got aircraft we want to acquire for an operation, and it's just not feasible right now. The prices are outrageous. And so we're on the sidelines. All right, bunch of call for prices, and that's it. Let's take a look at this. Look at a 2014 here, 2,000 hours, Pinnacle Aviation. Can't tell whether it's on programs or not. Let's just hope it is. 2,000 hours, 2014. What are we looking at? 2,000 hours. We'll leave 115% on the inflation there. Will be nice. 2014, $3.4 million. And if we drop it down to 110, where I think it probably should be, just because next year, I think that's where it will be for buyers. If you actually want to move it reasonably fast and not have it sit on the market for 6 to 9 months, okay, 3.2. So I think that's a reasonable price, somewhere in there for that aircraft. All right, so that covers M2s. Now we'll move to CJ3 pluses. And let's see here, model and CJ3 plus. Okay, here we go. All right. hardly any prices in here. It just is what it is. We may have to just try some of them. All right, here we go. 2018 programs, 2,100 hours over the point where folks don't want it anymore. This thing's been on the market for a very long time. Why? Because the price is too high and it has too many hours. So if one of those don't flex, you can't rewind the hours. So if price doesn't flex, I don't know why you would buy this. I'm telling you, if you're smart, do not acquire this aircraft. It's too much. Okay, let's feed it through our little ticker here. We said 2,150 hours ish. CJ3, it was 2018, brand new. That was 8.3 million bucks if they paid sticker for it. so basically, it's 5 years old with a huge amount of hours on it. That's heavy wear and tear, outside, inside, interior, leather, cracks, stains, maybe in the carpet. Who knows? Again, all my opinion and subjective opinion, but it's heavily used and it's standing near where it was brand new. What would I hope a normal person be willing to pay for it? Somewhere around $7.1 million. So look at the overvaluation on CJ3 pluses. We are seeing what was that? Sorry, I just don't have a great memory here. 8.15 million divided by the CJ3 plus for 7.11. That's a 14% delta. Not horrible, but it's 14% on top of the 10% inflation we already added to this adjustment. Even if we put 115% in and we're super nice, we're 7.45 million now. So, are you going to close that gap? Probably not. It's a lot. And I wouldn't, because a few years ago, I saw these aircraft that is this old, this age difference, 5 years. I saw 5-year-old CJ3s going in the low sixes. So, you're going to lose on your investment. I think you are going to have a loss if you acquire one of these things now. Okay, let's see, 2019, 2018, 2017. Here we go. Cessna CJ3 Plus. Do we get to have a year on this one? 2015. Okay, all right. So we got a 2015, 7.8 million with 750 hours on it. 750 hours. 2015, brand new, went for 8.4 million. Still expensive if I'm right on these. Again, if you've got more accurate data, please help me. Let's make this calculator work. 2015 to 2015, I show 6.5 million. They're selling it for 7.8. 7.8 divided by 6.5, 20% overpriced in my humble opinion at the 110% ratio for adjusted for inflation. Okay, 2018, 7.98 million for a 1,500 hour bird. 2018, again, in 2018, these were 8.3 million. And now I would think they should be between 7.2 and at worst, I wouldn't buy it because I wouldn't want the loss, 7.5. So, 7.2 would be a good price in my humble opinion for that bird. Definitely not going to close that gap. 7.98 divided by 7.25. Well, that's a 10% gap. I mean, maybe that's closable. I don't know. 10% is a very reasonable number, but when you tell somebody to shave off their sticker price by $800,000, they have a heart attack. 7.25, it looks like. Let me be fair here. 7.98 divided by 7.25. Yeah, it's a 10% gap. Sorry, that's exactly what I did. Maybe you get them to shave 800 grand or 600 grand or 500, something, meet in the middle. I don't know. Maybe that's not such a bad deal there. It's not a great deal. It's not a good deal at all. It's high market value with rising inflation, less pilots flying, increasing fuel over time if we keep losing our energy independence. It's just a lot of downward pressure here. All right, 2017. Sorry, I digress. 2017 with 3,400 hours. No one wants you at all. No one wants you. 3,400 hours is an absolute massive amount of time. Don't even know why we're going through this exercise, but let's try it. CJ3 Plus, 2017, 8 million. Maybe 6.3 with 3,400 hours. It looks like that just ended at the 65% depreciation. So I might drop inflation down to 105 on that. I mean, it's just so many hours unless the interior is brand new. 2017. Yeah. Oh, sorry. 6 million flat. Yeah, that would be a good price for that. 6 mil for an engine that's near its TBOs, heavily utilized, 6 years old. That would be my call on that. All right, we're just going to throw 800 back in there, and that is the end of the CJ3 market. Okay, on to Phenom 300s. I'm not going to evaluate Phenom 300Es. They're kind of new, and candidly, I haven't really tracked them for a long time. I've been tracking Phenom 300s forever, and so I know what these have sold for in the past, and the past will return, and that's why we got to hold the line, folks. That's why we got to hold the line. All right, let's jump over there and check those out. Manufacturer, change that to Embraer. And we're just going to do the straight Phenom 300. And again, we can really only look for stuff with price. All right, here we go. 2014, 8.7 million bucks with 1,700 hours, 1,750 hours, and 2014 Phenom 300. Okay, I show 6.9 on a 2014, and I show 9.3 original. What's this listed at? 8.695. Oh my gosh, it's hilarious. I mean, are people this dumb? Like, are there really people dumb enough to pay that for this aircraft out there? Are there any of you out there that are really that dense? I mean, it's crazy. It's mind blowing. What are we at on our inflation adjustment? Oh, sorry, I put the wrong number in here. 6.9. 6. We'll just call it 7. We'll be really nice. 8.7 divided by 7. 25% over what I personally believe is reasonable. And I kid you not, in 2014, or actually like in 2017, you could find Phenom 300s at that same age gap. So right now, 2014, we're talking 9 years. So 2017, you could find like 2010s, 11s, 12s in the 6s. I saw them, low 6s to the point where you might have been able to get them into the 5s. So why do we have a 25% rise in cost over just 3-4 years? It's too much. It's too much. It's unreasonable. It's got to come down. All right, continue on. 2014. 8.1 million with 3,600 hours. No one wants you. No one wants you. And I think at 6.6, I wouldn't even be in. If I was ready and willing and looking for a Phenom 300 for my fleet, I wouldn't even be in at that price. It's too used. Sorry. Continuing on. Sorry, probably going to make some enemies out of this, and I don't really want to do that. I would like the market to get back to reason. I think a lot of you would as well, hopefully, if you're watching this video. And together, that's how we're going to make it happen, by holding the line and saying no to this kind of stuff. You cannot turn a profit as a business paying these kinds of prices for these things. 2013 with 4,200 hours. Why do I even put it in? All right, 2013 was 8.9 new. If I even have that right, I don't know if I do. 6.4 million. Hey, at least they're in the region of reasonable, and that's only because we stopped depreciating this thing at about 65% of its value as well. But honestly, I wouldn't give any inflation for that. That to me is a $5.8 million aircraft just because it's so used. I wouldn't allow the 65% shelf to hold it. All right, and that's all we got for Phenom 300. So you can see the Phenom 300 is the most overinflated market so far in what we've reviewed. It looks like we skipped CJ4s. So the Phenom 300s were about 25% over reason. CJ3s, I think, were like 10 to 15, and maybe there was 120. M2s, some of the newer ones, are within reason. Isn't that interesting? A market within reason. Mustangs still decently out of reason, but as a dollar value because they're just less expensive. Hey, there you go. All right, let's take a look at the CJ4s because we did not go over that market. Click models here, and I will get rid of manufacturers, Embraer, Cessna, select models. CJ4, here we go. Here we come. All right, give me a price, someone. 2016, 798 hours. 798 hours. 2016, CJ4, 9.2 million new. 2016, probably no one paid sticker. No, I've never paid sticker at Cessna. Let's pretend they got it for 9. Could be wrong, but let's pretend. 2016 and now, yeah, 6.9. That's probably a reasonable price for that aircraft. What do they got this thing? All right, 9.8 divided by 6.9. 42% markup. And this is mind-blowing to me because you'll notice for CJ4s, I have a toxic asset adjustment in there because historically, I've seen CJ4s in the low 5s, 4 or 5 years ago, probably like 2018, 2017. Yeah, so 5, 6 years ago. Seen them in the low 5s. Okay. So that means they're coming. And what year would that aircraft been? Probably an 11 or a 12 or something. So it would have been 5 or 6 years old. And so here we are. Here is a 7-year-old aircraft. Was it 2016? Yeah, 7-year-old aircraft. And so this should be, in my humble opinion, about where they were back then. Now, we can get rid of this toxic. You might think, oh, CJ4s, they're not toxic anymore. People want them. They're easy to get rid of. I don't know, the proof's in the pudding. They don't move on inventory. But if you want to get, I give these a toxic asset adjustment because historically they've been hard to get rid of from what I can see, my opinion. All right, 2016, 7.7. 7.7. So even if you're at 7.7, you are still 27% over. This is worse than the phenom market. Like, what are these people thinking? What are they thinking? Is this market even moving? We go back to aircraft inventory. We take a look at CJ4s, 13, 12, 16, 12. Market's not moving, guys. The market, the consumer is trying to tell you something. Trying to tell you you are so far off base, it's ridiculous. All right, Fimway Asset Holding in Switzerland, 2013, 7.5 million, 1,499 hours. 2013, I don't have data on it. But a 2013, probably around 9 mil, probably 8.8 or something is what they actually paid, just guessing. And so just under 6, maybe, just under 6, 7.5. Okay, 25% markup. Again, right up there with the Phenom 300s. The interesting thing is this is a dramatic inversion on a market. I want you to consider boat yachts, right? You could have a $10 million yacht that 5, 6 years from now sells for a couple $1 million. Why? Because people just want to get rid of them. No one buys $10 million yachts. And when people want to get rid of them, they just want to get rid of them. That's why boats are so cheap. Same thing with very expensive aircraft. 10 million, you will see Boeing 737s sell for $1 million, $2 million sometimes, really old ones, because no one wants the responsibility anymore. This is a $10 million machine. Hardly anybody can afford it. The people that can want brand new. They're not going to pay these kinds of prices when they can get near new for that. So I don't understand the thought processes behind the sellers and the brokers and the salesmen in these markets. They make no sense whatsoever. It can't be helping the manufacturers. It's certainly not helping the sellers sell their aircraft. The ship has sailed. Those prices are too much. Okay, so that is that market there. And again, don't chastise the calculator. This is a work in process. It'll get better. Please give me some constructive critique, hopefully some data in the comments. Help me out. I'll let you folks that are looking at other aircraft. I just threw these calculators together today. And so you can kind of take a look at that, take a little screenshot. And again, this is my opinion. This is where I think things should be. Not necessarily where they are right now or where maybe other people think they should be, but these are what I believe are reasonable prices for these things. So I'll put 500 hours so all the numbers adjust for you. I'll put 1,000 hours so all the numbers adjust for you, and there you go. All right, so that is pretty much the market at a glance. It's high. There might be some deals on some newer M2s. Other than that, I say hold the line. That's it for the video. Like I said, I was going to go over helicopters and stuff as well. You know, sorry to spoiler alert, give you a spoiler alert here, but same issue. Helicopters are a little better. I think there's decent deals in 429s right now. 407s flexing a little bit. Some of the 4-in-1s. 505s aren't at all. I mean, 505s are silly. That market sits, no one buys them, and still the prices people are asking for them are just mind-blowing. $1.9 million for a 505. That's $2 million. That's nuts. You know, 1.5. I don't know. I mean, these things were like not that much new. So it's just hard to justify. I don't know what these prices are. Hey, maybe you're starting to get some reason there. I don't know, 1,700 hours. Yeah, so I don't want to go over this market. Comment if you want us to look into some helicopter stuff for you. Comment if you want us to look into some of this market as well. Some of the kind of fixed wing market. This is another kind of insane market. I mean, look at this. There are 281 SR-22s for sale right now. Do you think there are 281 pilots out there just in line to buy an SR-22? No, there are not. There are not 281 pilots with $1 million to spend on an aircraft. So these values are going to plummet. You know, if you were smart, if you're one of these 281 guys, if you're smart, you're going to drop your price by 100, 150 grand right now and just be the first to get out. Because if you're still in line with all these guys trying to sell 281 aircraft, when the price really starts dropping, I mean, what are you going to do? 300-400 grand below? It's supply and demand. There's huge supply. This has got to come down. It just is what it is. TBMs, not too many of them out there, it looks like. Meridian's another one of those really interesting market. The prices on those, on even regular Cessnas, have just kind of gone nuts. I don't understand why people are paying these prices. So do yourself a favor. Be smart with the hard-earned cash and wealth that you've acquired for yourself and or your business. Hang on to it. This is not the right time. That's my opinion. Thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. And we hope you have a great day, and like, comment, subscribe, notification bell, all that stuff, share, send us data. So help us, help you, help us. Take care.